Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we talk about the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Today's show is, I'm just going to get straight to the point. I'm pretty much going to tell you how start to finish, how to make a organized heroclix team, and that's able to compete. Now, just fair warning, just me telling you this doesn't mean all of a sudden you can make a Majestics or a Rubicon. Heck, even Phoenix Nest is like 2.5 to almost 3 years in the making. And I mean, it's rough on me, okay? But I'm telling you this so that we can have the continual growth of the game. And not only that, so that we can get more competitors into the competitive scene, so it's not just the same people over and over again. Also, real quick, shout outs to my Phoenix Nest teammates. We were able to get one of our guys into second place, Wes Griffin, at Tulsa, and another guy using the same team I was playing in Tulsa with better effect, Matt Grecanos, and he got 4th place over in Big Bang in Kentucky. So, without further ado, let's sort of get into it. All right. First off, I'm going to tell you this. While having friends in a team is great, and having comrades and people who are like, yeah, I like you, I like you, and a team is great. Understand not everybody is built for competitive play. Straight up. If you have a guy and he's, a cool guy to be around, yet he only likes building Spider-Man family theme teams, he's not built for competitive play. He's just not. Many times in competitive play, you have two extremes that goes on. Either you have to create something out of nothing, or you are net decking, like net decking hard. I'm not going to front on that. And I'm saying this as that's something that I've had to deal with recently. I played George Masu's team straight up, changed maybe like one thing. And I only changed like one thing. And I think it was which sin to use. And did really well. Okay. And other times I've made freaking wacky, weird stuff, okay? So you need to understand that everybody that's down for the team is down for the team. Means that they're traveling unless it's like family emergency or job, okay? Otherwise, you end up with a lot of excuses. A lot of excuses. And I'm just going to, not name names and people's friends and whatever else. But from people that I know personally, operating with other people, there's a lot of wishy-washiness that goes on and a lot of smack talk that goes down saying how hard they are, and what good, heroclix player they are. And then all of a sudden, when it's time for them to actually go to an event, they'll be like, nah, man, I got to go walk my dog that day. I'm sorry. Okay, so first off, you need to have people that are down, all right? Second of all, you need to be able to have a means of getting together and talking, okay? Phoenix Nest is a team of individuals all over the country of the United States. A lot of other teams are based off of, a localized play group, and both have advantages and disadvantages. Having a localized play group means that you can just get to the local store and talk tech and, have a nice little, good time with pizza and stuff. But if you want to make something a little bit more complex, you're going to have Skype and drop, ducats on Skype phone. And here's why I say Skype phone in particular, and not just having Skype, because there's tons of meetings that I wouldn't have been able to have as the head leader of Phoenix Nest if I didn't have Skype phone. So pretty much, with Skype phone, the big advantage is that I can call a person on their phone, as well as have, the two other parties on the line through Skype, or, call all my teammates through the phone. And it's great. And I'm able to, if I want to, record the call just to go back over, like we said something about blankety blank Namor, blankety blank, Iron Man, blankety blank Ares card. I can, if I want to record that, I can. But more importantly, if I do have somebody that is able to sit in front of the computer, that's great. I'm able to talk to them and have them on the Skype call. But if they're not in front of the computer but have access to their phone, Skype Caller is really your only option. I mean, unless I haven't messed around with the Google Caller, but I don't know if you can mix like Google IDs and phone calls or whatever. But trust me, definitely if you have people all over the place, this is by far your best option. You can pay for a year. It's going to be a lot cheaper than what I do, which I pay for every like 3 months. And I fail to just, say, hey, I paid for this sucker for a year. But it's cheap. It's really cheap. All right. Going on. The next thing that you need to establish is like, what type of team are you? Are you gunning for the top, or are you just looking to have a competitive edge? You don't mind getting 5th or 6th place, those sort of situations. Making top 16 is an achievement. Are you there for the love of just competitive play? Playing good stuff and going in there as a organized unit. Now, here's where I'm just saying this up front. I've encountered teams that are guys there that are there to have fun, but they're dedicated to going to events, okay? And that's cool, okay? That's really cool. But at the same time, I've met crews whose whole intents and purposes is to win and grind folks underneath their feet, okay? And that's cool too, all right? But know what your overall sort of mode is before you get started, okay? That's going to determine the type of people that you're going to pick up. That's also going to determine the expectations going forward with people. You want to have this all layered out up front. Because here's what will happen. People will be like, we're hardcore, we're cool. Then all of a sudden, a family member's involved, a girlfriend's involved, and then all of a sudden, things start getting added to the docket that shouldn't be added to the docket. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this from personal experience, but I am saying this from things that I've seen other people go through. Okay. So just keep in mind, you need to know what the sort of the purpose of your group is. Okay, so like for Phoenix Nest, for example, our goal is to win. Like straight up. Like to be one, like when you say like Majestics, we want our name to be like that. Like, oh yeah, well, for Phoenix Nest, oh crap. There goes Matt, there goes KJ, there goes Wes, there goes Edward, there goes Eric, there goes, Dragon, oh crap. This is not going to be an easy game. Something along that lines. So anyway. But again, make sure you have that up front. Okay. Next up, have a guideline. Have guidelines. Just reinforcing the previous point. When I drafted Phoenix Nest, I had a guideline. Everybody in Phoenix Nest goes through the guidelines. Everybody goes through the requirements. No ends, ifs, or buts about it. Know what your guidelines are. And here's what your guidelines should be. What's expected of the player, the timeline of the player, and really what are you offering the player, okay, for being in this organization, and what the player is expected to give to the organization. Okay, everybody on my team, is in communications chat. Okay, everybody. So I send a message out, I'm getting feedback. When we are going for Origins or Rock World Cup, I'm getting feedback. Okay, so when a new set comes out, we're talking. Okay, I know some groups, they have a message board, and that's required of them. Some groups are required to do X amount of hours in-house playtesting. That needs to be all set up front. Okay, now you're gonna say, like Dark Logos, there's a lot of rules for having fun, and it's like, yes, and the main reason is this. Like I said before, not everybody's down for your type of team. Not everybody's down for your type of team. Okay, you get the wrong person on your team, it will mess up your team. I'm just telling you this from a straight leadership perspective. If you are super hardcore, and you get a lazy dude on your team who happened to stumble into a couple of wins, that laziness will infect your team in a negative way. All right, so just keep that in mind. Also, you need to be mindful about like making sure like little cliques and stuff doesn't form, but that's something else later. Okay, so now you've established pretty much your guidelines for your team. Okay, the next thing that you all need to do, and this is what I know a couple of teams do and what we do at Phoenix Nest, is you need to have an end of the year meeting, so around October, November, and a beginning of the year meeting. Okay, now why is this important? First off, there ain't really anything going on in November and December. Hell, even in January in heroclix, really. Like mid-January, the tournaments start up again, but most people aren't traveling for all that. Okay, like let's be real. Okay, but you need to understand, in your year, which tournaments are you going to? Okay, so like at the beginning of the year, I told my team that I was going to every tournament in Tulsa that I possibly could go to, and I was going to go to Howard's tournament, I was going to go to Origins, and I was going to go to Rocktober. Okay, so when you add it up, Tulsa has had 3 Super Qs, plus Huntsville, so that's 4. Okay, plus states, that's 5, plus WizKids Open, which that was a whole ordeal, that's 6. Origin 7, Rocktober 8. So when you look at my season, I have 8 tournaments, 8 major tournaments that I've gone to, okay, of substantial competition. All right, now for most people that's a lot. It's a lot. Like I don't have a girlfriend, wife, or kids. Okay, so I don't have to worry about all that. Okay, some of my teammates that have girlfriend, wife, or kids, that's too much, and so we tailor it for the individual to make sure we're able to get the maximum amount of growth out of each tournament. Now, that's up for you to decide as the organization. What do you want? Like, do you want guys just gradually getting better, and your first 2 to 3 years is you all figuring it out, and then year 4 trying to pick it up, in year 5 you're like, boom, beast mode? Okay, or are you looking to just be like, I'm going straight beast mode right now? Because I'm being honest with you, if you want to go straight beast mode like immediately, it's going to take you 2 years at least. 2 years at least. All right, and so you're not going to start out the gate like we're stomping and killing everybody. Check out our shirts. Okay, and if you notice, I haven't even talked about shirts and team name and all the other stuff. You got to get all this stuff that I'm talking about right now down before you even go into team name and shirts. And we're going here, and you got to talk about where you're going, but team name, shirts, and we're the baddest people on the block. Okay, so anyway, keep on going forward. The next thing that you need to be fully aware about is how are you going to be dealing with prizing. Prizing is really, really important. And I'll combine this. Prizing and inventory. Rubicon taught me the essential understanding that you need to have a figure bank. Okay, you need to have a figure bank. And there needs to be a central point where most of the figures are at, or a person that's sending out a majority of the figures. Now, the main reason I say this is because you're going to have teammates that are going to need to borrow figures. No one has everything. And if you come up with the killer combo to win, the regional, okay, then guess what? You're going to do everything you possibly can to get those pieces. Now, understand, eBay is about 65-75% of the time the solution. And when it's not, oh, buddy, it's not. You're not going to be able to get anything. Okay? So, with that being said, what's your next step? Okay? What's your next step? Well, you're going to have to borrow. So establishing a figure bank of local players, or at least players in your team that you're able to borrow stuff from, is essential. Okay, like I'm sending things to a couple of local players. I borrowed something for Tulsa from one of my my teammates. So there's a lot of things that you need to be mindful of with sending out figures. Number one, you need to have everything under tracking numbers. Number two, you need to be able to understand that the person that you're lending to is trustworthy. If they're they're on your team, hopefully they're trustworthy. But if you're like, screw that dude, that can become an issue. So you don't want that to really start clouding judgments or causing problems and whatnot. The other thing that you really need to just be mindful of is if it's something that's like $100 figure, $200 figure, you might want to invest in insurance and make sure that like the box that you sent it in and the packaging and the way that you package it is how it's going to be returned back to you. Okay. But having that central, figure bank where people can borrow figures from, is essential. Now, there are multiple ways of handling this. I'll tell you how in Phoenix Nest, how we handle it, and I'll tell you some other ways that it's been handled. In Phoenix Nest, the main way that it's usually handled is a player says, "Hey, Edward, I need to borrow blankety blank card for or blankety blank figure, okay, for this event." Okay, I'm confirming like this is your final team, right? Yes. Okay. All right, I'll look through my stuff and I'm like, hey, I don't have this. Okay, so what I'll usually do is if it's in a reasonable price, I'll go on eBay, have the item sent to them. Okay, at the same time, if I have the figure, I'll have it mailed out to them. Now, if I need to borrow something myself, I'll be like, yo, does anybody have this? Okay, and then they'll say yay or nay, and then if it's yay, then bam, I'm borrowing it, and they'll send it to me and tell me which way it needs to be packaged when I send it back to them. Okay, so there is something there with that. Now, other teams have sort of for lack of a better word, a donation system in which team members are contributing X amount of money per set to buy certain power figures, so that the team will have it for upcoming competition. So they're talking about, let's just say we're buying 2 Spider-Man super rares from the Superior Foe set. We're buying 2 Chase Shazams. We're buying 3 Chase Supermans, all for the team to use. And sort of recognizing, I'm just saying things in general, big figures so you can get the perspective. We're buying 6 Doc Ocks. Prize support Doc Ocks, stuff like that, so that if there's a big tournament that comes around, there's at least enough options on the table for people to play multiple things or play similar elements. Okay. Now, when I'll say this, there's a certain member rate or member volume that you can easily do the figure bank at. And like I said, that latter option of donating money and stuff, you need at least 10 people. Like, you need at least 10 people for the volume of heroclix that you're sort of cranking through. Now, if you want to try it with 4 people, good luck. That's going to be rough. But you're better off at that stage creating and diversifying your builds than trying to get multiples of the same, popular figures if they're super rares and chases. Okay, so there's that. All right, so let's move on to the next section of what are you going to call yourself, aka what's on the shirt. Usually people will start with the shirt and the name and all this other stuff, and then go out recruiting. But here's the thing: if you don't have your core and they don't agree with the name, then they're going to think the name is dumb and they won't want to wear the shirt. Okay, so really keep that in mind. Like, you're trying to recruit, at the same time you're trying to have something that's appealing, that reflects the nature of the group in which everybody can sort of stand behind. I could tell you early on, when developing Phoenix Nest, one of the names that came up by Macy was like Eagle's Nest, and I was like, hell no, that's where Hitler's bunker was. I think I had some silly names like Apply Force, and something like the Intelligence Collective. Like, there's some things that's just using compound words just to sound smart, that's what I do. Okay, so when I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm glad I didn't call it Eagle's Nest. Definitely right now, I'm really glad I didn't call it Eagle's Nest. But I did sort of hint, fall into like, all right, cool. The theme of this team is developing players to be, S-class, high-class meta players. So the nest element is a good idea. Let's make it a little bit more fantasy-friendly. Instead of Eagles, Phoenix. Boom, there's the name. So that's how that came into play. All right, so make sure you have a cool name that also reflects, the ideas and the philosophy of the group you're with. And then shirts, I'm going to tell you the truth. Shirts is rough, because if you're local, then you can just go and find like a local, shirt printing thing, and then they can do all the customizable things and stuff. But then at that stage, you're paying like $20 to $25 a shirt for like a normal tee. So there's cheaper ways of doing it to get, like team shirts, but at the same time, you're also looking at the reality that most of those shirts all of those shirts are really going to be uniform. Jerseys and bowling shirts and all that other stuff, that's way more expensive. Embroidery, I actually looked into embroidery this year. That stuff is expensive, definitely, because you have to pay for the embroidery, pay per letter, and then you have to, if you have like a symbol or anything, you have to pay for your image or whatever to be scanned and turned into embroidery code. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, if you're going to do it, like, and you're going to go hard, understand this is the cost of it. Okay. Next up, I would say is like, I think I'm sort of coming back to like the, how are winnings split? Okay. And winnings are important for a team. Definitely Rocktober offering money. Okay. For my team, there is a split that goes back towards the group, just to grow it. There are costs that are taken on by members that doesn't necessarily have to be taken on by members if there is profits sharing when it comes to actual liquid funds money. When it comes to actual like prizing and stuff, unless it's teams, usually on my team, just keep what you kill. But at the same time, not everybody's that lucky. So if you look at your group and you're like, yo, for the next 6 months, none of us are going to be playing with these con LEs. Let's sell all these con LEs, get all the stuff that we need for the next 6 months, and then just roll from there. Then that's useful. That's way better system, but it does require, your teammates to be down for that. But again, you should have already figured that stuff, out up front. And again, if you haven't figured that stuff out up front, it causes more problems down the line. You have something like Majestics, what they do, in some cases where it's, hey, it's going to be, we're first and second, I'm already qualified here, you're first, but I get, 35% of the, I get, 65% of the prizing since I'm already qualified. Now you're qualified for Rocktober, and you're first, and here you get, 2/3 of a brick, and I get a brick in the last third of your brick, or whatever, So there's that as well. I do recommend that everyone adopts the rule that we have in Phoenix Nest is there is no mercy when playing teammates. Like, you go all out. I'm not going to mention what happened, but there was accusation a while ago at a major event of colluding, and you don't want that to happen. You really do not want that to happen, because that will follow you. And some people know automatically, like, who I'm talking about, or the two people I'm talking about. And more people know one of those two people that I'm talking about a bit more. Okay? So I'm going to tell you this. Even without me watching what happened in that instance, the fact that that instance is a well-known instance, regardless of what those two players are doing for the community right now, is the main reason why when you play each other, just go hard and wipe each other off the map. Make sure it's not even shady. And hell, even bring up to the judge like, yo, we're teammates. FYI. Keep everything above the table. Okay? Alright, so let's talk a little bit more deeper about travel. Now, this is probably going to be a little bit longer section in the development cycle. So you gotten your guys together, or you're getting your guys together for an event. You're all going to the event. I have the philosophy of get there a day ahead of time, get the hotel, get sleep, go into the event fresh. Okay, I think that's the healthier way to do it. I know cats that drive, from 2 a.m. all the way there, time the venue starts, that's on you as the player and you as the organizer. Now, please understand when I say this, I have not met a team ever in heroclix that did not have an organizer that got everybody's butts in line to get to the event. Have not met a team. Okay, I've talked to at least 10 to 20 teams. Okay, on various different scales. There is always an organizer. There is that one person who, says like, get on the bus now. So if once you designate that magical person, understand they may not be the best player on your team, but they are the freaking synapse of your team. They do a lot of work. And Dre from Rubicon pretty much showed me like how much and how important a manager is. Like, it is huge, the difference that a manager can make. And for Phoenix Nest, like when we started, Jess, Mace's girlfriend, really was like super helpful. Like, she was, oh gosh, she would run and get us stuff and, watch our bags and whatever while we were playing if she wasn't playing. She pretty much just made sure, like, hey, if we need anything, that we got it. All right. At the same time, for me currently, I'm like, where are you at? It's like, what team are you running this week? Have you practiced? Blah, 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 blah. But we'll talk about the manager thing a little bit later in depth. But I'm just going to tell you, like, every time you plan for a trip, you're going to have a manager. And if the person that's mainly booking the flights and, determining where you're staying at, that's your manager person. All right. Like, there you go. All right. But, once you're setting up your travel, you need to have the following taken care of. And I know this sounds like this is obvious, but again, I'm just laying everything out. Number one, you need to understand how far away are you from the venue. This is important because some teams have people that like to sleep to the last minute or don't like to wash their butt in the morning, which, I'm sorry, if you don't like doing that, you don't play heroclix. Please don't. But they don't like washing their butt in the morning, so you need to get them up to wash their butt, and they take forever. There's some people that need a 30-minute shower. I'm just telling you. All right, so you need to know, like, hey, if I'm going to get a hotel room or hotel rooms, how many do I need? How many people are comfortable staying in a room? How, collecting the money from them to, for the hotel room, knowing how long you're going to take to get to the venue. Do you need to get 15 burgers before you go to the venue? Are you going to have a vehicle that you're renting? Is there going to be a lunch break and then you're going to have to go someplace that's 5 minutes away up to 15 minutes away on your hour lunch break? These are like logistical things that you like have to be mindful of when planning your trip. And I'm just sort of pointing this out. Like on our team, like Matt and myself are like healthier eaters. Okay. Then you have Wes that lives on a concoction of chemicals that's called food. And then KJ is almost a pure carnivore. Okay. So when it comes time for us to eat, it's not always easy. And then even when we went to the grocery store to get food, there's food there that they don't eat. Like there's stuff that Matt and I ate that, KJ and Wes can't touch. Wes has an allergy, which I'm not going to say what it is. So he can't eat certain things that I brought because it could literally kill him, and which sucks. And then, KJ has his other things lined up in the fridge, which was interesting at Origins this year. But so you stack in your healthy food and your Mountain Dew, the freaking 6 gallons of Mountain Dew we had. Gosh, that's a lot of Mountain Dew. You got my freaking granola bar, Cliff Bar thingies. Okay, you have all these different like health requirements. Like I can't eat a bunch of super greasy, like what was it? We had like the pizza popper things. Like I didn't eat hardly any of those. Those things make me sick. Okay, but you need to be mindful of that. So if you have a guy with a pot belly stomach that has a kettle drum, intestines, and you have another guy that's thin as a rail who has the what's the word? Anyway, he has the digestive system of a 12-year-old. And so he eats nothing but grasses. Okay. You need to understand that both of those guys need to eat. All right. If the grasses guys need to bring his own food, then cool. All right. Be set up for that. All right. Now, I really want to stress this. On the return trip home, be safe. Be safe. Understand, the legalities of insurances and on, who's the driver, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Because I know some people's insurance, they can't have other people as drivers and still get covered and all the other jazz. But it's very important to be safe. Okay. If you're tired and you have other people in the car, feel free to pull over and have somebody else drive. If you're by yourself, again, I recommend, if the tournament's going to go late, just rent a hotel room and then leave out in the morning if you can. Most rocks are 1-day rocks unless you're on the West Coast, which they have 2-day rocks, and I don't get that, but that's what they do. Okay, just make sure that you're leaving the venue at a reasonable time. If you have nobody in out rounds, then yeah, just like hasta la vista, baby. If you have a guy make it all the way to the finals and it's 10 o'clock when it's all said and done, you have 5 guys in the car. If you can, just tell them like, hey, first set of guys, go to sleep, like get some rest, just chill. Understand you're going to drive at this period of time. I'm going to drive from here to here. You're going to drive from there to there, blah, blah, blah. Get that settled ahead of time. Okay. Because I never want to cover as a personality, so-and-so, on the way back from heroclix major tournament, got into an accident and, 3 players died. Never want to hear that. Okay. So again, once you're looking at your logistics are not just important to getting to the venue and being on time. It's about the health and safety of your players. And when you understand that, logistics is a very huge thing. Okay. Also, when you come down to money exchanging hands, just understand, I'm just going to be honest, just understand where everybody's at before you make decisions. Just because a hotel is cheap does not mean that it's a good hotel to be in. For example, I stayed in the Hawthorne Suites at Origins, and it was a horrible piece of crap. And yes, I'm going to say that. And we did it to save money, and none of the things that was on there was promised. I will never, ever stay there again. Okay? Ever. All right? So, like, I have asthma. I can't stay in a motel which allowed smoking. Okay? And I have a teammate that smokes. It's interesting watching us talk in between rounds and not dancing around the wind. But so like there's like logistics has a lot of things. Like I can't sleep in a hotel room that has smoke. I mean, if I do, I literally cannot sleep because I'm wheezing. And that's not safe for me. That's not safe for my teammates wondering, if they hear me wheeze, am I actually like on my last breath? So there's things like that. Okay. So let's sort of move on to development and to playtesting. I've talked about playtesting tons of times, but you have to decide like what is your all secret sauce for making teams and developing teams and playtesting teams. If it is, the 3-hour phone call where you all get together on Skype and just talk about it, or you're at the venue and you're talking about it, and then you're playtesting as you're talking about it, do whatever you need to do. Okay, every team has a different methodology. All right, and to varying degrees of success, those methodologies have their uses. I'm not going to tell you this is the best methodology, this is the worst methodology. Patrick's methodology may not work for you. Okay, and I'm just going to be honest. It may not work for you, or even more specifically, may not work for you at the stage that you are at now, and your team is at now. Okay, like even my methodology may not work for your team as it is now. All right, but you can go and listen to past shows where I talk about how to play test and what you need to be looking at when you're play testing. Okay. Now, to sort of expand on that, where I'm going to sort of try to hit you with is this. If you all come up with a good team, understand that even though you can come up with a good team, it doesn't mean that everybody needs to run that team. There's pros and cons of doing that, but the main con that just comes in, I'm just going to be, blunt about it, is that in a major tournament, you have other teams there, and the more that they as a team encounter that element in between rounds, the more they're able to discuss ways of beating that element. So having a diverse set of teams, with teammates is really important. Just sort of going forward in general. But yeah, come to think of it, I think that's mostly it. Recruiting. I forgot. Recruiting. Different stores. Different teams have different requirements. And depending on what type of team you're trying to do is going to depend on the type of recruiting that you're going to try to do. The best thing that I can tell you from recruiting publicly going into my second year now is keep all your standards just up front and be as transparent as possible. And understand that a lot of people, while they're cool and they're great people, just don't want to be on your team. And understand that may not have to do with you as a person. If there's other circumstances, surrounding that. But every team that's going to last will eventually recruit. Okay? And I'll give an example. Agents of ICT. If Agents of ICT did not recruit James Chris, I don't think there would be a team. I really don't. Because I haven't seen Rascal Jace in a while and a few other guys. And I'm not saying that they quit or whatever. I have no confirmation on that. I'm just saying I haven't seen them in a bit. And that affects your ability to get numbers in an event. More numbers in an event gives you more eyes and experiences of what's actually going on and real-time information. So anyway, but so there's Goku, Goku's brother, and there's one other gentleman, and James Chris is pretty much the active Agents of ICT, and that's a functional team. So there you go. But if you didn't recruit, if teams don't recruit, they're bound for death. They really are. Now if it's just like, hey, this guy's in my store, understand the limitations of that. Okay. And if the game, if your game store goes away, what are you going to do? So like naming your team after your game store is a really, really bad idea. Okay. Because it in the future, if you do have a option for sponsorship, then you've sort of burned your bridge just by holding on to your old name. And when you do change names into something else, then it can be a problematic thing. All right, that's it for today's show. I hope that this is useful. It's pretty much how to start your own team in a can. And hopefully you will find it useful. You can find me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space and told me, man, this American election is too good for live TV. Too good. Just too good. Too good for live TV. Anyway, you can find out my random musings, and I do mean random, on the Twitter. You can find out when a new show is up. You can also subscribe. Hit the subscribe, hit the like button. I appreciate that. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. Let me know what you all think about this last show. You can also buy a Phoenix Nest shirt in the link below. I'm working on a new shirt, trying to get it out before October. May not get it out before October, but I am working on a new shirt. And if you ever want a custom colored Phoenix Nest shirt, let me know. And I will try to get it up on the store for you so you can buy it. Also, you can get a Starting Over Podcast shirt as well. All right. That's mostly it. After this last weekend, I'm opening up a new service on top of the $5 coaching It is the $2 team verification, where I go and make sure that your team is actually legal and works the way that you say it works. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.